Hello! Welcome back to Buckle Up. My name's Jasper and this is the BYD Dolphin Active, and it's the cheapest way of getting yourself into this fully electric family hatchback. And I'm going to tell you if it's any good. Let's start at the front end, which is relatively bland but does still have a couple of standout features. Firstly, you've got a large black plastic grille here with the BYD lettering in it. That's surrounded by a very statement LED strip that illuminates when you have the headlamps on. Your headlamp clusters have got a daytime running light strip that runs underneath them, and you've got an indicator in each, which is a kind of three-strike design. Headlamps on all specifications of the BYD Dolphin are fully LED, and they're pretty good. Down here you've got a large black plastic grille with some strike designs in it, and then at the sides of the bumpers you've got some styling elements which do look a little bit like grills, but in the name of aerodynamics they're all blanked in, even this bit here which you might think would be for a bit of airflow through to the wheels. You've got a relatively prominent front bumper which features a camera for your 360-degree surround view system, and then down here you've got a safety sensor for some of your active safety systems. The front of the car is relatively bluff and you have a pretty flat bonnet, but you do have a couple of crease marks towards the edges. Moving around to the side, you can see those elements of gloss black plastic here, but you've got a dull plastic that surrounds both of your wheel arches. You've got some lovely 16-inch alloy wheels on this particular trim, but if you go for a higher specification car, you can get 17-inch alloys there. These have got an aerodynamic finish as well as a diamond cut face, and I think they look pretty good. Up in the front quarter panel, you've got your charging flap. This has a Type 2 and CCS fast charging connection, and the Active will fast charge from 10 to 80% in about 38 minutes at a maximum charge speed of 65 kilowatts. So not the fastest charging car out there, but a pretty reasonable top-up time. It's a pretty boxy side shape, but you do have a nice element of creasing down those doors. All trims of the Dolphin come with keyless entry and go, which is really nice to see, but you've got to step up to the top trim if you want these gloss black mirrors to fold in electronically. Similarly, base trims do not get tinted rear windows, but I still think this looks pretty good without them. You've got some funky styling which has got a striped pattern in it, much like the grille at the front of the car on your C-pillar, and under your A-pillar, you've got a little window reminiscent of quarter lights of old. While the front of the car is pretty nondescript, the back is actually my favourite angle, and that is because of this fantastic design you have in your rear tail lights. When these illuminate at night, you've got this beautiful crisscrossing, smooth flowing shape of red across the back of the car. That strip is flanked by the Build Your Dreams script, which is technically what BYD stands for, but they are kind of moving away from having this all over their cars because it's just a bit naff, really, isn't it? BYD is nicer than Build Your Dreams. Down here, you've got the badge that says BYD Dolphin, which of course is this car. You've got a small boot spoiler that juts out over your rear tail glass, high-level third brake light, and rear wiper washer. And then lower down on the bumper, you've got some similar elements to what you had at the front. So you've got gloss black styling that curves its way around some of the outer extremities of the bumper. You've got some darker sections around your rear number plate, and then highlighting elements towards the bottom. The Active trim level comes with rear parking sensors, and you've got a reversing camera that's part of your 360-degree camera system. That is standard on all trim levels, but again, if you want front parking sensors, you've got to step above Active to get those. Let's have a look inside the boot and see what that's like for practicality. The space back here is reasonable, but it's smaller than some of its rivals. So you've only got 345 litres of space, which for this size of hatchback isn't great, but if you consider the fact it's an EV, that's actually okay. Now you do have a really quite chunky false floor in this boot, and that raises the boot floor level by probably about that much inside the car. So whilst this does look quite a small space, if you take that floor out or lower it, you actually do get 345 litres of space, which is okay for this size of car. If If you fold your rear seats down, which are a 60-40 split fold, you get 1,310 litres of space back here, which is actually pretty practical, and I've moved a set of drawers with this car in the week that I've had it. The boot doesn't have too many features. You've got a couple of deep pockets at either side, and then this aforementioned false floor, and there's a light over on this side. No 12-volt socket and no bag hooks though. You can fit your Type 2 and home charging cables under this space, no problem. You can lift the floor that's underneath the lower section of the boot, and under there you've got your tyre kit and a warning triangle. Passengers in the rear seats of the Dolphin will not feel shortchanged when it comes to both leg and headroom, because this car is really quite well packaged. If I just pop my large headrest up, you can see that actually I fit back here really quite nicely. Now this seat is in my own driving position, but with the amount of knee room I've got in front of me, this driver could definitely be 6 feet tall and I would still have knee room back here. The floor doesn't feel particularly high, and I can kind of tuck my feet under that seat a little bit as long as it's not in its absolute lowest position. Headroom is pretty reasonable, and I could be 6 feet tall and then I'd probably just start to brush the ceiling, but if I slouch down a little bit, no problem. It is very comfortable back here too. These seats are very nice and foamy and supportive, and they're wrapped in a lovely vegan leather. This has got both flat and perforated sections with a diamond kind of pattern in them on the centre of these outer seats. Practicality is great too, because I've got Isofix points that are just accessible on both of these outer seats. I've got a central armrest with 2 cup holders in it that both fit my reusable bottle of water, and that bottle of water also fits in the pretty substantial door bins over here. I've got 3 different pockets in the back of both of these front seats, a larger one at the base and then 2 individual ones that could fit something like a mobile phone in them. The material quality, even on the door cards, is pretty good. Now it is a pretty hard scratchy plastic, but BYD put a texture on it which both makes it look better and also makes it feel more substantial. And yeah, it's the same kind of hard scratchy plastic that you get in a lot of this car's rivals, but somehow here it seems higher quality. You can get 3 adults back here if you need to, but like most cars in this segment, it's not going to be overly comfortable widthways for longer journeys. In the centre console down here, there's a cup holder, so if you've got 3 people back here, they all have somewhere to put a drink, and there's a pair of USB Type-C charging connections lower down. Another thing that I really do quite like is BYD leaning into their ocean theming again, and these door handles are quite unique, and they are designed to be like a Dolphin's flipper. They're actually just quite ergonomic and pretty nice to use though, so let's go and check out the front seats. If the back seats are pretty impressive, the front seats are even more so. Now you've got the same kind of material on your door cards, but again, it feels really substantial and pretty sturdy. Then you've got the same vegan leather on your seats with contrast piping around the edges. Both of the front seats are fully electrically adjustable, and your steering column adjusts for both reach and rake, so getting a comfortable driving position is actually very easy. You've got some contrast stitching by your squishy leather armrest on the door card, you've got a squishy leather armrest in the centre console, and then you've got such a lovely array of premium looking and feeling materials with a really unique design in them up front. So you've got circular air vents that have got a nice satisfying clunk in them, and they sit in this beautiful gloss plastic shape that emerges across the centre of the dashboard. Up top is hard, but again, pretty substantial, and then you've got a vegan leather wrapped steering wheel with premium plastics and styling on it as well. Another thing that's great is the infotainment screen, which has wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto capability, and yes, the climate controls are in it, but BYD recently added a feature where some swiping with your fingers will allow you to adjust the temperature irrespective of the screen you're on. In here, it's a 12.3-inch screen, lovely, beautiful, bright, crisp, clear graphics, and your instrumentation binnacle here is pretty clear too. The cabin is pretty practical. The only area it falls down on is cup holders, because these centre 2 here are actually really quite small and would only just fit, say, a takeaway coffee style cup in them. Not to whinge too much though, because my reusable bottle of water does fit nicely in the door cards and does squeeze into them. However, other practical touches are great, because you've got a tray for a phone up here, another tray for a phone down here, a large binnacle down here with a roll top cover over it, and then you've got two USB Type-C charging ports here, as well as a 12-volt socket. And then underneath this center console, you've got quite a large, deep storage bin, and you've got a really good sized glove box in here. One area that BYD really do quite well with is making this cabin feel very premium. And given the starting price of this car, RRP, is £26,200, this cabin is screaming mid-30s to me. It really is elevated above its price point suggests. That also trickles down into stuff like the switchgear, because these stalks feel really nice. All the buttons on the steering wheel feel very nice and have a lovely tactile click when you press them. And then I absolutely love this row of rotary style buttons in the center. You've got a rotary knob for your volume, you've got quick shortcuts for your front demist, climate control on and off, auto setting, hazard switch, regen level on braking, your snow mode, your drive mode, so eco, normal and sport, and then a rotary flick backwards and forwards style shifter with your park button on the end. Really convenient and a very human level of design. Down here you've got your auto hold on and off, electronic parking brake and traction control off if you need it. On the steering wheel, you've got all of your cruise controls for the intelligent cruise system on the left-hand side, and then your infotainment, audio and binnacle controls on the right-hand side. On the highest trim level of car, you can get a wireless phone charging pad up here. But one thing BYD do is they give you so much spec on the base car, and that's really good. Right, driving the Dolphin, which is a full EV, and we'll start with those all-important battery and electric specs. So, I have got a single motor at the front wheels, which produces at its peak 95 PS and 180 Newton meters of torque, which are both quite small numbers. The motor is powered by a battery pack which is BYD's Blade design, so it's got cells oriented vertically underneath the car, which is good for efficient packaging, and that battery pack is 44.9 kilowatt hours in capacity. It will charge at a DC speed of up to 65 kilowatts, and that means that overnight on a 7 kilowatt wall box you can plug this in and fully charge it up in about 7 hours. A rapid charge from 10 to 80% will take you 38 minutes, and if you just need to go from 30 to 80%, it should be about 28 minutes. To achieve the WLTP claimed range of 211 miles, you need to average about 4.7 miles per kilowatt hour, which is actually achievable in mixed driving. If you're on the motorway, expect to see around 3 miles per kilowatt hour, but in urban settings it's actually very possible to get more than 5. So 211 miles is achievable, but if you have a little bit of fun and put your foot down, you may struggle. Speaking of putting your foot down, with a whole 95 PS and 180 Newton meters of torque on tap, this car isn't exactly sprightly, but it will do the 0 to 62 mile an hour sprint in 12.3 seconds. This is the least powerful version of the Dolphin available, and if you do go for different specifications of car, you can get one with about 180 PS, or the top two specs come with 204 PS and will do that same 0 to 62 in 7 seconds flat. But just because you get the cheapest powertrain and cheapest car, that does not mean you are shortchanged. In terms of driving feel and driving experience, the Dolphin is actually pretty reasonable. Now, it is by no means a sports car, and don't expect it to drive like one as a result. This cheapest one actually comes with a torsion beam rear instead of multi-link suspension. Steering feel itself is relatively lacking, but the steering has a good amount of weight behind it, and you can actually choose to have a sportier feeling or heavier steering wheel if you'd like. That's detached from your drive modes, which you've got down here, normal, eco and sport, and essentially all that changes with those is your throttle response and a little bit of braking. The regenerative brakes in this are not particularly strong, but they certainly do a good enough job of recouping energy, and you can choose to have more aggressive or more mild regeneration in the settings. Pedal feel in this is really good. EVs often struggle with having a decent feeling behind the brake pedal, but the Dolphin absolutely gives you enough feedback there, which is really nice to see. This infotainment screen is a very prominent feature within the cabin. It's very bright, very crisp, pretty easy to navigate. Once you've found things in the menu system that is admittedly quite complex, you're all right, but finding them in the first place the first time can be a little bit tricky. The car is absolutely loaded with technology, and even the base trim, which I am in, comes with a full suite of active safety technology, including intelligent cruise assist, which will find lane markings and keep you centered. It's not the best system that I've used, and sometimes it does struggle to pick up lane markings, but the intelligent cruise that will lock onto the car in front of you is excellent. You've got the full 360-degree camera system and rear parking sensors, and with this car being not particularly large, it's pretty easy to place on the road and get into tight spots if you're parking. The cabin is pretty quiet at low and medium speeds, but when you get on the motorway it does liven up a little bit in here, so it's not the quietest driving experience, but it's by no means particularly loud. The only bizarre thing that seems like an obvious no-brainer to fit is auto wipers. No level of the Dolphin, as far as I'm aware, comes with auto wipers. You get intermittent wipers, but not auto wipers. The ride is very compliant. The 16-inch alloy wheels that this car has, and even the 17s, because I have driven one with larger alloys, are very comfortable. The suspension in this is so good at soaking up lumps and bumps in the road, and the car is relatively light for this kind of hatchback, weighing in this instance at about 1,500 and something kilos. So it's pretty compliant on the road, and whilst not being fun, is definitely safe enough and keeps you feeling pretty planted. I've had quite a lot of fun in this car this last week, and I think that's because it's relatively limited on power, so you feel like you can use most of it in most of your normal driving circumstances. So I actually really have quite enjoyed driving this. It's not by any stretch the most competent hatchback, and if you do want to have a little bit more kind of outright fun in this segment, the MG4 is probably the car to look at for a little bit more driver engagement. But I think this is pretty good. BYD will back up this car with a 6-year, 150,000 mile warranty as well, so they are pretty confident in their technology, and therefore it should be a relatively safe bet to buy. If you couple that with the excellent level of technology you get across all trim levels of this car, I actually think the Dolphin is a really, really good purchase, because it's kind of batting at the lower end of the price range in this segment, to the point where something like a Vauxhall Corsa E or Peugeot E208, which is the class below, is actually more expensive. You are getting tremendous value for money if you choose a Dolphin. So the BYD Dolphin Active, is the cheapest one the best value? I think it might well be, actually. This car offers you such a great blend of luxurious interior, decent performance, and excellent value for money. If I was looking for a family-sized hatchback that just happened to be an electric vehicle, I might genuinely buy one of these. I do honestly think it's that good. Let me know what you think of my take on the BYD Dolphin in the comments below. That is everything for today's video. So firstly, let me say thank you very much for watching, and secondly, there are a few different ways you can support the channel. The first of which is our merchandise store, which is linked in the video description down below. Please go and buy something with the Buckle Up logo on it. Our social medias are all linked in the video description as well. Please do go and follow us in one or all of those places. We also have channel memberships available directly here on YouTube, so if you'd like to support us on a monthly basis with a small contribution, we'd be very grateful. That is everything, so thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!